I get the question from time to time, will I need more than one procedure? And the answer is, it depends. So what is the number? What's the statistic of patients that do more than one procedure? 70% of our patients will find that a single procedure meets their goals and expectations. In part, the reason that 70% is so high, because in most practices it's less than that, is because we use hair grafting. And that particular type of technology allows us to give the patient more fullness, more density in a single sitting. Let's touch on the main reasons a patient might want another procedure. So the first is patient expectations, hair type, hair color, age, degree of hair loss, and bare areas. Probably the biggest is patient expectations. So if a patient comes in and they're looking to kind of regain that youth like they were in their 20s, and let's say they're 60 and they're completely bald on top, or let's say a patient is in his late 20s and he's lost all of his frontal hairline, you can only get those hair seeds so close together in a single surgery. If we put the seeds too close together, say the original density, for example, then those hair seeds compete for blood supply and a lot of the hairs don't survive the procedure. So the surgeon will intentionally add a little bit of space in between the hair seeds so that those hairs and those seeds survive and grow in. Now once they're established, you can go in between the hairs a second time and make that area fuller. So patient expectations is a critical thing and one of the most difficult things for consultants and surgeons to determine what the patient's ultimate goal is. Another thing that's important is hair type. Let's talk about the thickness of an individual's hair shaft. So if we transplant 4,000 hairs into an area and the patient's hair shaft diameter is 60 microns, and the next patient we transplant the same amount of hairs into the same area and his hair shaft diameter is 90 microns, it will look like he has a third less hair in the transplant because his hair shafts are finer. So hair texture, hair type is an important consideration in formulating the plan for the patient. If your hair is dark and your skin is light, you can see the skin through the hair more easily, okay? So patients with darker hair and lighter skin will sometimes come in and have a second procedure done to make a bigger improvement. So if you have blonde hair or gray hair or light hair, the skin color and the hair color are more similar. So you don't see the skin through the hair as easy because it looks almost the same. And then the other spectrum is the patient with dark hair and dark skin. Those patients tend to get by with fewer procedures because the hair color and the skin color are very similar. Let's talk about age. So in my experience, younger patients tend to want more hair. So with those patients, we'll often do a larger procedure and let that hair grow in and see if it's enough of an improvement for them. They tend to, on a higher percentage, come back for a second procedure in the same area at some point to make it thicker.
I'm happy with what I have, but I have the ability to get a full head of hair that's very dense, very full. And when it comes to hair, unfortunately, because I like hair so much and that's a big part of my identity, I can see, like, I don't want to say gaps because it's full, but I'm almost striving for like as good as it can get. And that's why I'm doing a second one. So, I mean, really, it's just, I'm obsessed with hair, so I want more.
Older patients, patients that are 45 or older, those patients tend to come back in for fewer procedures because their expectation is different. They're not trying to be 20, 25, 30 again. They're trying to be age appropriate.
I'm not trying to get 20-year-old hair. I want my hairline to be appropriate for my age.
Degree of hair loss. If a patient has no hair on top of his head, from the frontal hairline to the crown, we can only cover so much area in a single procedure. Generally, one of our larger procedures yields about 7,500 to 8,000 hairs. We start in the frontal hairline, and the patient's basically bare or bald, and we go back, putting the hairs very close together. We're only going to get back about 14 centimeters. So essentially, that's the whole top of the head, but not the crown of the head. So if the patient has a balding crown, then that area wasn't touched in that particular procedure, and that patient will come back and have another procedure in that area. Now you may ask, well, Michael, can I just spread that hair out over a larger area instead of just 14 centimeters? The answer is you can, but that really spreads the hair out and makes it much more translucent, much thinner in appearance. Bare areas. The rule of thumb that I like to use with patients is if you have a bare area, i.e. let's say your frontal hairline is 2 inches, 3 inches back, and there's just no hair there, it's impossible to match the original density on the sides and the back in a single procedure. Now you can make it look similar, you can make it look really close, and a lot of patients will get by with a single procedure in the frontal hairline, but I find that those patients tend to have a second procedure more frequently than any other patient that we do. I find that patients that don't manage their hair loss tend to come back for procedures more frequently. For example, let's say we have a patient that comes in, he's 30 years old, he's got some recession in the frontal hairline, so his hairline's moved back, let's say 2 inches, and he says, hey, I would like my frontal hairline lowered and I want my hair to look like the rest of the hair. So we transplant and fill that area in, and that patient decides not to do any type of hair loss management, and the transplanted hair continues to be there, but the hair behind the transplanted hair begins to fail and thin and shed and fall away. So now when the patient looks in the mirror at his hairline, there's no hair behind his hairline, so he sees through his hairline more easily. So hair loss management is an important part, in my opinion, of maintaining the best look possible.